Hello and welcome to Too Many Tabs, a podcast where a husband and wife duo sit across from each other at a desk. And what do they do at this desk? Oftentimes they hold hands. Mm-hmm. Sometimes they look into each other's eyes. Yep. But most of the time they're telling each other about lore. Lore that they've discovered deep within the wells of the internet. Lore that they've hand-picked, handcrafted, and hand-decided on what to show each other. And this week, it's the husband who's showing the wife his thingy. And by thingy, he means research. And by research, he means stuff that he found with the assistance of people who are much smarter than him. That's right, it's a new episode of Too Many Tabs!
Too many frauds and too many scammers that we wish weren't real. Too many cons and too many spammers, and we're starting to feel like we've got too many tabs open. It's too many tabs. Remember to smile.
That's right, we're here. It's another episode of Too Many Tabs, the only podcast that...
End of sentence.
No, there's other podcasts.
No, there's not.
There's other podcasts that claim that they're the only podcast as well. That's a thing. So no. I don't want to be accused of stealing the other podcasts, only podcasts line.
I didn't know there was another podcast that says that.
There is.
I don't know. I don't listen to podcasts.
You know?
Well, no,
You don't want to hear what Charlie Kirk has to say from the governor of California, you big idiot?
No, there are certain podcasts I don't listen to because I don't want to accidentally steal content. You know what I mean?
Oh, you don't want to pickpocket.
I don't want to pickpocket, so I don't listen to like certain things that I used to listen to.
The reason I stopped listening to stand-up comedy, so I didn't notice how the entire nation was spiraling towarurs fascism.
Yeah.
One comedy club at a time for the last decade.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, come on. It's fine.
Yeah, I know. Anyway, you welcome to Too Many Tabs.
Sure.
This episode is kind of special.
Why?
Because I want to let everybody know. This is my little parasocial corner. Let's get into Papa Pearlmans, Parasocial, Parapet, and let's talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
I've been depressed. I've been very depressed. It's been a hard time. But I slowly realized that part of that was the sun had not touched my face for a month.
Yeah.
It's been cloudy. I've been indoors.
Yeah.
It's been cold.
Uh-huh.
Got a little warmer. Sun came out. Took the dog for a walk.
Yep.
Came home, was like, hey, I've been depressed, huh? And Mrs. P was like, yeah, idiot. You've been super depressed. And thank you for being there.
Yeah.
Thank you for loving me.
Thank you for being
But on the other side of it was I read an article.
Yeah.
And that's what today's episode is going to be about. I read an article about a man that we're going to talk about a little bit further into the episode.
This is how I want to describe what happened.
Yeah.
You were sitting in bed with your phone.
Yeah.
Reading on your phone, probably when you were just waking up. I don't remember, but all I know is you were in bed, snuggled up like a little grumpy, depressed burrito.
Yeah.
And you jumped out of bed like the grandpa from Willy Wonka with the golden ticket to come running downstairs to tell me what you just read. And I was like, wait, what?
And you were like, put on pants. Because I think I was...
Well, you did have on the one, the cotton long nightgown with the little hat that you wore, because that's how you dress for bed.
That's how I dress.
Like Ebenezer Scrooge.
And I had a lantern.
Yeah.
Oh!
Yep.
Yeah, buy me the biggest turkey from the window.
Canada turned off our electric grid.
Yeah.
We're going by candlelight.
Yeah, and so that's what today's episode is about as we get into that. But we do want to start out by doing, a little call to actions and just a little announcement.
We're podcasters. So, subscribe.
Yep.
iTunes, Spotify, stars.
Yeah, we're looking for them stars.
Reviews.
We're looking for stars. We're looking for reviews.
Leave them comments.
Yeah, drop them.
Find us on Instagram. Like and follow us there.
Yeah, find us on the socials, all that different stuff. And also, I mentioned this article.
Ring the bell.
Ring the bell. I mentioned this article. I'm going to put that in the show notes so you guys can read it as well along with this podcast. And also, today's episode was highly researched by our very good friend, Sad Beige. And please, I have her Instagram down in the show notes down there. Check her out. She makes content that...
She's the best.
She's an incredibly funny content creator. And she's also a really, really, really good researcher, which you guys will hear throughout this episode. So with that, I am ready.
Yeah, let's
Mrs.
go.
B. I'm ready to start looking towards the future by looking into the past and seeing that we've done this shit before. This is not the first time. And guess what, guys? It sucks, but you can get through it. So without further ado, let's go ahead and learn a lot about the life and times of George Dale.
We're back.
We're back. We're here. Okay, so I want to go ahead and start out by letting you guys know that this is going to be the story of a man fighting the Klan.
Yeah.
In 1924. And it's important because this is almost exactly 100 years ago. This story happens here in America. And the reason why I want to tell you guys this story is a lot of people have been looking around, and I think a lot of us, when we're doom spiraling, we go immediately to Hitler.
Yeah.
Immediately. Because it's the worst. Hitler's the worst.
Yeah, absolutely.
But we're in America, and we have done this before, specifically with the Klan.
I think Hitler learned from America, no?
He did.
Yeah.
A lot of what he learned, he learned from us. And he was
Yeah.
like, yeah, look.
These
Like,
Americans sure are doing that.
Hitler's favorite guy was an American. His name was Henry Ford.
Yeah.
Hitler loved an automaker.
What's it up with the
It's
automakers?
so crazy that it's like, hey, what do you do? Oh, I'm building a new type of car. Oh, that's awesome. What else do you love? Oh, buddy.
Oh, man.
Oh, my hobbies? Oh, you can't wait to hear about my hobbies.
Oh,
anyway.
I know. Collapsing the infrastructure for trolleys and buses in the city of Philadelphia.
Yeah, and you fast forward that to destroying the high-speed rail on the West Coast. Anyway, we need more tunnels. Okay, so George Dale.
Okay, yeah, I don't know who this is.
I know you don't know who this is. I want to explain to you about this man and how he stood up to the Klan in Indiana.
Oh, whoa, okay.
The state of Indiana.
Yes, Indiana.
Okay, which I've been to. I've been to Indiana. I've been to Indianapolis.
Yes.
And
I have also been to Indiana.
You have?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So
I've been to every state. Wait, that's not true.
You're missing a couple.
I didn't go to the Dakotas.
Uh-huh.
There's a few states I haven't been to. Basically, anything super square or rectangular, I
Yeah.
probably haven't been to.
Yeah.
Because I have this theory that states that are squigglier, that have different weird shaped borders, are usually the funner states.
So
once they get really square,
Indiana literally proves that that's wrong.
Oh, no.
Indiana.
Oh, no.
Indiana proves. And listen, I would say no hate to our fans in Indiana, but I did a show in Indianapolis, and guess what?
What?
Not a single person who came to that show was from Indiana.
no, they all drove from other states.
Yeah, one person was like, "Yeah, I drove down from Minnesota because I figured this would be the closest you'll be." And I'm like, I'm gonna try to come to Minnesota. Like, I'm gonna try.
I'm trying to move to Minnesota.
Listen,
they got Tim Walz there.
I know. But anyway, George Dale he's a newspaper publisher.
Okay.
And a very, very interesting man. But to understand what he did,
Okay.
we need to talk about the Klan, and that's difficult because, especially in American education, but especially American culture as a general, we have memory hold the Klan on purpose.
Yeah.
And by the Klan, I'm saying the Ku Klux Klan.
Yeah.
Okay? The white sheet, the burning crosses, all of that stuff.
Yep.
And the thing that we memory hold the hardest is the Klan, much like ska, comes in multiple waves.
Okay.
Okay.
I don't know if we should we should not.
I'm gonna do it.
parallel.
I'm gonna do it right now.
We should not parallel.
Every
ska
time the
music.
Klan rises, ska is right there to fight back.
Okay. So
Yeah.
I see what you're saying.
Yeah. So there is officially there are 3 waves of the Klan. I would argue that we're actually in the 4th wave now.
We're in the 4th wave of
We're
the
at
Klan.
4th wave Klan.
Okay.
Okay. So the first wave of the Klan, Klan 1. Was from 1865 through about 1877.
All right.
It's a very short run, but it's from Reconstruction at the end of the Civil War,
Yeah.
through the Compromise of 1877. And this is the Klan is born out of Confederate veterans and
Yep.
soldiers who were real mad.
Yeah.
And were terrorists. They were literally insurgent terrorists, and they were trying to hide their identity. They did not have the robes that we picture now.
Yeah.
Those are a later invention. If you watch the movie Django Unchained,
Yeah.
the guys who have like black bags and the whole thing where they're arguing about the eye holes,
Yeah.
that's actually pretty accurate.
Yeah.
That is how they would just put these black bags over their head. They was literally pillowcases. They would cut eyes in, maybe have like a little drawing on and stuff like that. It was less of the ghost shit that comes later. This group, though, was designed entirely to do terrorist attacks and to scare black populations, as well as to break up Republican voting drives.
Yeah.
Now, one thing that's going to be confusing to some people is there's the old Republicans back then were the liberals, and there's a party switch that happens in 1965.
Yeah.
1964, 1965, when Lyndon Johnson says, hey, black people should have rights, all of the racists went to the Republican Party, and the Republican Party was like, yeah, no, let's go win the South.
Yeah.
It's what Nixon does this. There's a bunch of stuff. I don't want to get too into it, but as I'm talking about Republicans back then, just know this is a completely different group of Republicans.
Yeah.
This Klan was decentralized. This Klan had no central governing body and was basically like micro franchises throughout the South. One guy would hear about a Klan and then he would start his own.
So they were Chick-fil-A's.
Yeah, kind of. Like Chick-fil-A's, McDonald's in that way. But again, those things, those types have... They have a central body that goes in and goes, no. We only use white pillowcases. Like there wasn't anything like that. Like
We say my pleasure.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So these guys, they pop up all across the South, and the United States government does something that is shocking today.
Okay.
Which is that they actually were like, no, we have to stop these guys, and we have to battle, literally fight racism. We have to physically fight racism. We just literally had a war against racism. Now we have to actually stop the racism.
Yeah.
So they passed a thing called the Enforcement Acts.
All right.
Okay. The Enforcement Acts of 1870 through 1871 were passed by Congress. One of these Enforcement Acts is specifically known as the Ku Klux Kln Act.
Okay.
Its full name is, quote, an act to enforce the provisions of the 14th Amendment to the Constitution of the United States and for other purposes.
Oh. What a name. Sure.
Yeah, sure. Just to point out, though, I would like to say that to remind everybody, the 14th Amendment is the amendment that is specifically being targeted by the Trump administration to be no longer looked at the same way, because the 14th Amendment is what grants birthright citizenship.
Yeah.
Meaning if you're born inside of the United States, you are automatically a U.S. citizen. This was one of the things we fought the Civil War over. This is one of the things that those enforcement acts were passed for, to make sure that we could enforce the 14th Amendment. And now here we are 150 years later trying to undo that. This third act specifically. Not we. He.
Yeah.
This third act specifically
Yeah.
was requested directly by President Ulysses S. Grant.
All right.
Okay. And now one thing I want to say about Ulysses S. Grant. Friend of the show. Ulysses S. Grant, deep friend of the show. Okay. If you were listening to the warm-up this week, you heard me talk about my love of Jägermeister. Ulysses S. Grant would have loved Jägermeister. Also, Ulysses S. Grant, he was one of those presidents that was shit-talked a lot. And actually, if you go through American high schools, a lot of our textbooks talk about him being a shitty president. They bring up the Teapot Dome scandal and a few other small things. That is actually leaned on. That's the South. That is the Texas school board trying to make Ulysses S. Grant seemed like a bag of shit.
Yeah.
Ulysses S. Grant, he wasn't a great president, but he was nowhere near as bad as they fucking line him up to. And the reason why he's so hated by the presidents, as a president later, is because how violently he suppressed the Klan.
Yeah.
He violently defeated the Confederacy, and then he looked around and said, oh, we're about to lose the peace? Give me an axe so I can shoot these fuckers. And that's exactly what he did.
Yeah.
He made and forced through this act, the Ku Klux Klan Act. Then they used it to round up Klans members. And then they put them on jury trials. And guess what they made sure they did?
What?
All black juries. They took these white devils, okay? They ripped the hoods off these white devils. And they put them in front of all black juries.
Yeah. Let's fucking go, dude.
And then they hung the fuckers.
Yeah.
And just the point, they go, do you want this?
Yeah.
And that was around 1871, so in the 1870s, the Klan starts to drop off. But finally,
They didn't drop. Well, they dropped off.
No,
the
they
ledge.
dropped off. Yeah, they dropped off the stool.
They dropped through the floor, right?
Yeah, they dropped through the floor.
It depends on how they build it, really.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes it's just a tree with a horse. So, what actually really finally ended the Klan is the Compromise of 1877.
Okay.
So the Compromise of 1877, where there was a presidential election in 1876, and there was some electoral college shenanigans.
Of course.
And basically one guy was clearly about to win, but there was slates of electors and all that. It was basically back then, in 1876, they were like, hey, we probably should get rid of this electoral college thing. It really fucks everything up.
Oh, my God.
Anyway, a man
120
named...
years still thinking maybe we should get rid of that.
A man named Rutherford B. Hayes
Rutherford
became the president of the United States. And in this compromise, one of the things was basically he ended Reconstruction. And he dialed back many of the federal actions that were protecting black people across the South. And therefore, the Klan also was running out of steam. And the Klansmen just went and became legislators again.
Yeah.
They were allowed to become legislators again. They were allowed to become judges again. And they slowly started rolling out things like Jim Crow, and like these different acts and things like that to suppress the free movement of black people.
Yes.
And that happens because of the Compromise of 1877. Rutherford B. Hayes, enemy of the show.
So, never compromise? Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah.
Okay.
Now, that's Klan 1.
Oh, okay. Klan 1.
That's Klan 1.
Okay.
Okay? That's what the Klan is born into. And what I described to you is really just a bunch of losers who were running around with sacks on their head, just shooting at people, scaring the shit out of them, and generally just being like, this is how we're going to stop them, while losing almost the entire time.
Yeah.
A bunch of fucking losers.
Yeah.
The Klan is almost always a bunch of fucking losers. By almost, I mean always.
Yeah. Percentage-wise, it's 100.
It's 100%. The second Klan, though, this is what we're going to talk about more, but this is the one that's often forgotten.
Oh, the forgotten Klan.
Yes. And this is the one we truly suppress in our discussions about it. So the second Klan, Wave 2, is from 1915 to 1940.
Oh, that's a big swath
It's a big
time.
chunk. It's a big chunk. Now, in reality, it's probably 1915 more to like mid 1930s, but they're basically from World War I, right around World War I through World War II.
Okay.
So basically from this movie called Birth of a Nation until Pearl Harbor.
Okay.
Okay.
Yep.
This Klan's very different. It's an open secret fraternity.
Yeah.
Where they're a secret group. They have secret handshakes. They have all this different shit. But everyone knows.
Yeah.
Nobody's writing it down, but everyone knows. This is where they start to come up with all of their weird names. So they have a lot of stuff that starts with the letter K because they're super into this K alliteration.
So they're a Kardashian?
Yeah, no, they are. Yeah,
Okay.
when you guys think of the Ku Klux Klan, I want you to think of Kris Jenner.
Yeah.
That's gonna get me sued.
Allegedly. This is a comedy podcast.
This is a comedy history
It's a comedy
podcast.
history podcast. We're just making jokes. It's our opinion.
Hey, if you're on iTunes right now, go give us 5 stars. Right, this is my favorite comedy history podcast. Okay, so this second Klan, was refounded atop a mountain in Georgia known as Stone Mountain.
All right.
Stone Mountain is today one of the largest Confederate memorials in the United States. They tried to build like a Confederate Mount Rushmore, and there's a laser light show that happens. It's still there.
People still go to the laser light show?
Oh, yeah, no, it's a whole thing. Oh. It's like a whole thing, and people tried to people pushed back on it in 2020, and then they're like, it's our history, it's my heritage. I'm like, this is literally a Klan site.
Yeah.
Now, much of its mythology that's born and basically what they claim their history of is they pointed to the guys from 1866 and the 1870s and said, that's who we're basing ourselves on. However, that was all myth.
Yeah.
Because at this point, there was a book that was written, and that book got turned into one of the first blockbuster films. And that film was called Birth of a Nation.
Yeah.
Birth of a Nation is a movie that is about the end of the Civil War and Reconstruction. And it's a movie where white actors in blackface play Union soldiers. They play black Union soldiers who are stealing white women across the South and raiding white farms and burning white plantations. And the only people who stand up are the wonderful, proud, traditional Southern men who step forward and fight these white actors in blackface.
Yeah.
And it's a massive hit. It's directed by a man named D.W. Griffith, who is basically the Christopher Nolan of his age. Like this,
Batman?
Yeah,
Oh,
like that level.
Yeah.
Steven Spielberg, Christopher Nolan. I just started thinking of like big directors.
Yeah.
And like a lot of times when I first heard about Birth of a Nation, they were always like, he's like the Steven Spielberg. I was like, well, Christopher Nolan's probably actually the better one to go on this one. Or maybe James Cameron. Like he's this huge blockbuster director. This movie was so popular that Woodrow Wilson, the president of the United States at the time, showed it at the White House and said it was amazing. Woodrow Wilson, mind you, also massive racist.
Yeah.
Enemy of the show.
Enemy of the show.
Enemy of the
Enemy
show,
of
Woodrow
the people,
Wilson.
honestly.
Yeah, Woodrow Wilson hated everyone and was like, no, we need a white America. Like, he was an evil man. In 1921, the Klan, but so in 1915 they get founded, top Stone Mountain, Georgia. By 1921, they had spread nationwide.
Okay.
So they had spread nationwide and through national fraternal structures, and they had paid recruiters, and they had mail order Klan robe sales that you could get from newspapers.
Oh, no, it's an MLM.
And they had national newspapers.
Okay.
One of which was called the Fiery Cross.
Okay. That's that number one on the nose.
Yeah.
Okay, on the nose. So we're mail ordering the robes.
That's how they made their money.
And there's a person who's selling them door to door.
So they have, what they do is they have paid recruiters called Kleagles.
Kleagles?
Start with a K.
Yeah.
Everything's with a K. Anything that's a sound is a K in this, by the way.
Okay,
Just
not,
to go ahead and...
not a Kegel, though.
No,
That's
not
different.
a Kegel. They don't know what that is.
Yeah.
That would mean they would have to not be in their secret fraternities. No, so they had these paid recruiters. This was all done by a publicity agency.
So wait, these...
No, hold on, you didn't hear me.
I'm sorry.
This was done by a publicity agency.
Oh.
They weren't doing well.
Yeah.
When they were refounded, they weren't doing great.
So they hired PR.
They literally hired a PR company called the Southern Publicity Association, a public relations firm that also represented the Red Cross, the YMCA, and the Salvation Army at the time.
Oh, no.
So for those guys who remember our episode about Edward Bernays, PR, public relations, was invented around this time by Edward Bernays, who was the nephew of Sigmund Freud. I know. I'm starting slowly to sound like a crazy person. I know. I'm slowly starting to sound.
I love that you think this is slowly.
I know.
We have been...
No, the YMCA and the Klan are connected. Oh, no. That's why he's playing that's why at his little rallies he keeps playing the YMCA, because of the Southern Publicity Association.
That's why they were holding up those fucking little pickleball paddles.
Yeah.
Okay. I have lost where we are.
Okay.
Because what I was thinking is, are these people that are going out and trying to sell the Klan?
Yeah. They're paid per head.
So they're like pharmaceutical sales reps.
Kind of. I would say,
because they're not. They're starting a downline a bit, right?
Yeah.
They're starting a downline because they want to sell the robes.
Yeah.
And then the more people you get in your group, you sell more robes. So is it a pyramid scheme?
Yes.
Okay.
It is an MLM. It's an MLM. It's an MLM for boys and girls. Because they have a women's
boys
auxiliary.
or girls, monsters.
Yeah.
Bad people.
But they also have a whole children's brigade.
Jesus fuck.
Yeah.
Okay.
So this PR agency, they really came up with like the changes needed for the second Klan to really blow up nationwide.
They came up with the costumes.
The costumes I think the costumes actually came up with by Birth of a Nation.
Okay.
That really is pulled forward from that, and that's kind of where the selling point is of like, oh, you can get your costume, you get all this stuff. Their biggest recommendation was setting up the recruiters, setting up the pay structure, and changing what they hate.
Okay.
Because they looked around, they said, listen, hating black people and Republicans, that's too narrow.
Yeah.
That only works in the South. You got to meet the people where they're angry. So the second Klan was not only anti-black, they were also anti-immigrant, anti-Jew, anti-Catholic, anti-communist, anti-evolution, anti-liberal, and anti-modernity in general. Basically anything modern.
Hate that.
They were. So today, they would say that they're actually not anti, but that they're pro-white, they're pro-Protestant, they're pro-tradition, and they're pro-fundamentalist.
Yeah.
That's how they would sell themselves. And they're pro-native-born Americans.
Oh, my God.
And that's what that's what this PR firm recommended, because the big thing with this PR firm is that they would get hired by nonprofits that they felt needed a help. And they viewed the Klan as a nonprofit.
Oh, Jesus fucking Christ. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh my God. No.
It's a nonprofit MLM.
No.
So this
That also franchises.
franchises and has selling points and a downline through a centralized agency that gives out affiliate links.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Nothing is original.
Nothing is new.
Nothing is original.
Nothing is new.
Everything original.
We're just repeating patterns.
Our last original idea was probably in 1910. The second Klan was hugely popular. In 1925, it's estimated that the Klan had between 3 to 8 million members nationwide in the United States, Jesus including with some chapters all the way up into Canada.
All right.
Central Canada. Now, let's go ahead and assume that we're 3 to 8 million. I'm going to just assume they have 4 million members.
Okay.
Okay? 4 million members in 1925 would be 3.5% of the total American population.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, what percentage of that?
Yeah, because there was 115 million people in the U.S. as of the 1920 census.
Oof, okay.
So 3.5% were wearing robes.
Yeah.
Level Klansmen.
Yeah.
That's not counting the people who are like, no, I mean, like, some of their, I don't agree with everything, but their tax policy. Like, they're not wearing the hat. Anyway, the second Klan was incredibly popular. They were so popular that they held 2 marches in Washington, D.C.
Oh.
They marched down Pennsylvania Avenue from in front of the White House all the way to the Capitol. Tens of thousands of Klansmen marched in the streets carrying signs that said America First. That was their slogan.
Yep.
Their slogan was America First.
I knew that, actually.
I know you knew that. And actually, if you go look up Klan March, you can see these images in black and white of the Klansmen and children.
Yep.
In their full robes. They do not have the shield down hiding their face.
Yeah.
These are people face out, marching down the street, and on the sidewalks was 6 deep.
Yeah.
And having just been at I don't want to compare them to the Philadelphia Eagles, but having just been in a massive parade like that, I was in crowds that was 10 deep.
Yeah.
And so getting that feeling for it of like how, we're not really a parade society anymore.
No.
In that sort of way. So like this is we're before television. Radio is really just taken off.
Yep.
These are the type of things how people would build community. But also, this is how you knew something went viral. They had a massive parade and this many people showed up. Well, I guess they're super popular.
Yeah.
Now we would just look and go, oh man, look how many they got. They got 2 million views across 6 forms of social media. That's pretty viral.
Yeah.
Like I was thinking at one point, I was like, 4 million people, that's a lot. And then I was like, I have 4 million followers across social media.
Yeah.
Meaning Mrs. P, take my hand.
Yep.
I have Klan numbers.
No,
Okay.
don't say that. Oh my God.
I have Klan numbers on social media.
No.
Give me 5 stars. Okay.
Comedy History Podcast.
So around the time they're doing these marches, the Klan was also able to pass federal legislation.
Yeah.
And this established the Immigration Act of 1924, which was some of the first restrictions on immigration in United States history. The Klan is the one who pushed for Border Patrol. And the Klan is also the ones who pushed for immigration quotas based on ethnic and racial stereotypes, as well as eugenic policies and discredited race sciences.
Yeah.
The second plan was so popular, so incredibly popular, that they had a schism.
Oh.
Do you know what schism is?
Like a church.
Yeah, like a church. They split.
Yeah.
And the schism was between the Southern Klan and the Indiana Klan. The upper Midwest.
Oh, okay.
And the Indiana organization split from the Southern organization. And this was huge because according to Timothy Egan in his book of Fever in the Heartland, the Ku Klux Klan plot to take over America, quote, the fastest growing faction comprising 40% of all Klan members came from just 3 states, Indiana, Ohio, and Illinois.
That checks out. Out.
The upper Midwest. And this also spreads into western and central Pennsylvania as well.
Yeah.
These were all huge Klan territories. Eventually, though, the second Klan collapsed. And it collapsed due to infighting. It collapsed due to people stealing funds. And it collapsed through many of them being grifters and kind of the inevitability of happens with most multi-level marketing schemes. The other thing that finally eventually killed them was the rise of fascism in Europe. Because the Nazis looked cooler.
Son of a bitch.
Because many of these Klans members...
Because the Nazis had Hugo Boss making their uniforms, and these guys are out here looking like nerds in pillowcases.
A lot of these dudes eventually spin out, if they don't age out of their Klan bullshit or like try to hide from it, then they turn and they join things like the Silver Shirts or these other different groups that are based on Mussolini's fascist like brigades of guys who go around beating people up. But they stopped. They basically they either stopped in general because of the entire thing they realized is a grift and bullshit. Yeah. Or they say, I don't want to work only at night.
Oh,
I'm tired of hiding.
Yep. Okay.
Okay. And what really kills them is because of that switch. When Pearl Harbor happens and World War II breaks out, being a Nazi, the Klansmen and Nazis are so close together, and the Nazis take so much from the Klan and copy so much of their tactics that being a Klansman is considered the same as being a Nazi.
Yes.
And so in the 40s, they fall off. And they go dormant for about 10 to 15 years.
Yeah.
Until the third Klan.
Okay.
Which is the one most of us think of.
Yeah.
The third Klan from 1950 through the 70s, even into a little bit into the 80s. This is the Klan that most of us know about because of their fights against desegregation and civil rights in the United States.
Yes.
This is your Southern hick Mississippi Burning Klan. This is the one that when I say Klansmen, you think of, we're out here, Jim Bob, good boy. These are the ones you're thinking of.
Yeah.
That Klan is not so much defeated, but is basically worthless by the 90s.
Because their PR is so bad.
Their PR becomes so terrible.
Yeah.
They're destroyed by things like Jerry Springer we talk about. They're destroyed by so many different aspects of television and desegregation and the fact that people weren't as afraid of their neighbors as we start moving in together. In a lot of these cases, the Klan grows based on the fact that the average person is scared of an influx. When we look at Europe right now and the rise of the far right, when we look here in America, it's a lot of people screaming because 2 or 3 people who look different than the community they grew up in have shown up.
Yeah.
Once there's 15, 20, 100, they're like, this is our neighborhood.
Yeah.
But like that takes time. That initial is where they get freaked the fuck out. We got to stop this.
Yeah.
That's where they freak the fuck out. By the time of the 80s, you know, hip hop, R&B, the regular television, by the time Fresh Prince is on the air, it's like, okay, if you are straight up a Klansman, like I'm not saying they didn't exist, but I'm saying they had no power.
Yeah.
We are now in the fourth wave of the Klan, which I would say has been the basically the mid 2000s until the modern day
Internet
Klan.
Internet Klan.
Which they don't wear.
This is what I was going to ask you about. Is because I know that one of the things that we were talking about once before. I don't know if it was on an episode of the podcast, or if like we were just like at the dining room table, but like the idea that like at some point on the internet, these Klan like ideologies got into every niche of the internet, every little group, every little subsect of like, oh, I'm into this art, or I'm into this video game, or I'm into this. Suddenly they were in every single little group. Yeah.
So what they did is they copied the Kliegels of the 1920s.
Got it.
This is actually straight up from the Southern Publicity Association's public relations handbook on how to recruit a new Klans member.
Yeah.
And what they did in the 20s is they would go to protests about money. They would go to protests about, different things happening, especially around the Great Depression. Or they'd go to boxing events. They would go to areas where young men were, where there wasn't necessarily a hierarchy that noticed them.
Yeah.
And they would pick them off from the edges. So you have a big crowd of guys standing around. They're looking at something over there, right? Oh, what are you guys doing? Oh, we're all watching this boxing match. Well, around the edges, you would have Klan recruiters walking around being like, oh, I like boxing too. A white man should always win a boxing fight.
Oof.
And they would hand
pamphlets.
Out. Yeah. Oh, the reason why there's a black champion? Jews.
Oh.
That's the type of things that they would push.
Yeah.
as they're walking around the edges. They would show up at vaudeville acts. They would show up at movies.
Yeah.
Every time Birth of a Nation ran, they would make sure that they were in the edges, which now in the modern era, where would you do that? You hide out in the comment sections. You hide out in forums. You start making TikTok content. You start hiding out in these areas. People like Charlie Kirk. Charlie Kirk is a Kleagle.
Yeah.
He won't admit it, but Charlie Kirk, Ben Shapiro, Candace Owens, all of these people are hand copying the exact same handbook that was put out back in the 1920s by the Southern Publicity Association to push the Klan. And at the end of the day, what are they selling? Literal hats.
Yeah.
They're selling you hats. Many of them are selling T-shirts. They are literally selling robes for you to put on so you can go have your little march.
Yep.
And so that's where we are now. And the thing I want to put those parallels for everybody is because I want to remind you something is, yes, this is the fourth wave. The fourth wave is copying the second. I'm now going to tell you how the second was defeated.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm going to tell you how one man of many, but one man, how he took a personal stand against the Ku Klux Klan in Indiana where they were stronger than anywhere else.
I'm so excited now.
I am too.
I am pumped. I cannot wait to hear
I know.
about this takedown.
I can't wait to tell you about it, and I've been excited to tell you about it ever since that moment I ran downstairs with that article, which I'm going to link in the show notes of this episode. We'll be right back after this. If you're sick for the 100th time this season, it's time to check out ZocDoc. ZocDoc is a free app and website where you can search and compare high-quality in-network doctors and click to instantly book an appointment. It couldn't be easier. You can filter for doctors who take your insurance, are located closest to you, are highly rated, and are a good fit for whatever ails you. And let me tell you guys, the one thing I didn't realize that when we were going to have a baby, and that is now a toddler, is that I now have a germ factory living inside of our home, and we are getting sick constantly, which is why ZocDoc's been such a great fit for us to make sure that we can get those appointments, get them set up easily, and also make sure that we get the care that we need. Once you find the right doctor, you can see their actual appointment openings, choose a time slot that works for you, and click to instantly book a visit. You can even score same-day appointments and get seen ASAP. Stop putting off those doctor's appointments and go to ZocDoc.com/tabs. That's ZocDoc.com/tabs to find and instantly book a top-rated doctor today. That's ZocDoc.com/tabs. ZocDoc.com/tabs.
Air horns, baby.
So let's talk about George Dale.
George Dale.
So George Dale is he's a newspaper publisher
Okay.
in Indiana.
Yes.
Now, obviously, he didn't start there. George Dale was born in Virginia in 1867.
Okay.
All right, he was the son of an attorney. So his dad worked in law. But he was born just shortly after the Civil War in Virginia, of all places, in Monticello. Dale began his publishing career publishing a newspaper called The Journal. And his big thing, his giant thing, was taking up a crusade against saloons and liquors. He was a teetotaler.
Oh, no.
He was anti... And the thing that people need to understand about this era, as we get into Prohibition, is that America was hammered.
Yeah.
I'm not saying Prohibition was good, but I'm saying people looked around and realized like everyone in America was drunker than they've had, like ever.
And like poison drunk.
Yeah.
Because like there was obviously no regulation, so people were drinking literal poison.
Yeah, and they were falling down dead constantly. But also it's one of those things where you look through and you're like, well, why were there so many riots back? Everyone was fucking hammered.
So drunk.
Everyone was fucking hammered constantly and consistently. So after his crusade largely succeeded with the passing of Prohibition and with also like more and more sales, going down of liquor and saloons across America and in that area, people stopped reading his newspaper as much.
They were home making bathtub gin. There was no time to read.
Also, they won. So again, it's one of those things. I think about that a lot actually when it comes to things like gay marriage.
Yeah.
Because gay marriage was legalized only 10 years ago in 2015 and by the Supreme Court. And immediately it's like, oh, that kind of took the steam out of a lot of the gay rights groups that had built up so many of these networks and things like that. So the same thing kind of happens to a lot of these anti-liquor and anti-saloon groups, which like there is no, there's like Mothers Against Drunk Driving, but there's no like ban alcohol groups anymore.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? There's nobody out there like in that way.
You couldn't possibly. The liquor
the liquor industry.
The liquor industry, absolutely not.
No, and not especially not my good friends at Jägermeister. They are not sponsors, but listen, if you listen to this week's The Warm Up over on our Patreon, you'll understand why that's so funny. So George Dale moves to Muncie, Indiana.
Okay. I've heard that town before.
He sells his subscription list because that's a big thing back then.
Yeah.
Was you made your money a couple different ways through newspapers. You had subscribers.
Yep.
You had the list of their names and addresses. Mm-hmm. And then you had advertisements in your newspapers.
Yes.
So how do you do that? You sell your subscribers personal information. And you also open up a space for advertisers for them. Okay. It's almost as if we've heard this before. This episode is not brought to you by Delete Me. I just want to say, but that's what he did. So he sold the list, his subscription list, to the Times-Gazette, and then he moved to Muncie, Indiana, and he founded the Post-Democrat in 1920. So George, he is a Democrat. He is a Democratic political party member. But there's actually a lot of newspapers that are like have like something Republican or Democrat in the name, because our newspapers used to be openly partisan on purpose.
Yeah.
And you would buy 3 or 4 newspapers and you'd meld them together to figure out what the truth was.
Yeah.
They didn't bullshit you today like they do today. We're like, no, we're fair and balanced. We cover all sides. It's, no. If you want to hear what the left has to say about this, that guy over there, he's got a newspaper for you. You want to hear what the right has to say with it? That guy over there. Which is why I think kind of in the influencer content creator space, we're getting closer to where we were back in the 20s.
Yeah.
Where it's like, listen, if you hear any information from me or from other people, like, you know I clearly have a bias.
Yeah.
If you hear from fucking...
Are you sure? Because for a while there, your comment section was like, this guy, when did he turn biased? When did he start?
Okay.
And I was like, where have you been?
Well, I'm just saying for smart people.
Also,
like our fans. Like the Pearlmaniacs and the Too Many Tabbers. They understand that I have a bias, and my bias is for more socialist sheriffs.
Sure.
Every time I think, every now and then somebody will just be like, socialist sheriff, and I just lose my mind for a day.
Yeah, it's the best thing that ever happened.
Yeah.
No, I was going to say that breakdown you shared on, was it Blue Sky?
Yeah.
Where somebody was like, this is who you go to for the news to explain to you. And then by the time they got to your name, it was like, this is why you should be angry about it.
Yeah. It started off with Aaron Parnas tells you the headline you need to know. V from Under the Desk News explains to you the details of it.
Yeah.
And Alex explains to you why you should be mad.
Exactly.
Yeah. But George Dale, when he moved to Muncie,
he
opened his newspaper, he looked around and realized, all these motherfuckers are Klansmen.
Yeah.
Fuck these motherfuckers. And he realized pretty quickly that everyone else was bending the knee to the Klansmen.
So he doesn't like alcohol, he doesn't like drunks, and he doesn't like Klansmen.
Yeah, well, because he really doesn't like hypocrisy, and at least I don't want to say that he doesn't like racism, because I don't know that.
Yeah.
I didn't really see that through this, but he hates the Klan. He sees them as corrupt. He can tell it's a secret network.
Yeah.
There's also, during this time, there's a lot of pushback against secret fraternities.
Yeah.
There's a lot of feeling that there were secret cabals of people across the United States that were actually controlling everything.
Yeah, the Masons.
Yeah.
Also, when are we going to let go of that?
Never.
Oh, okay.
It's actually
secret cabals.
It's actually ingrained in American society.
Yeah.
We have flare-ups of whether or not we care about them, like every 15 to 20 years. But Dale starts going after the Klan, and he does it in a way that reminds me very much of Tizzy Ent from social media.
Oh, okay, yeah. He calls them out one by one.
He doxes the motherfuckers.
Jesus Christ.
He straight up just doxes the motherfuckers.
I was trying to be so PC about it.
No, he fucking doxes these people straight up. George Dale becomes committed to revealing the identities for all members of the Klan.
So he's like, oh, you're going to wear a hood, bitch?
Yeah.
Bet.
Yeah, he's like, no. Show it. And he does it by mocking them.
Yes, you have to mock people.
In all of his Klan posts, he goes out of his way to make sure every C is spelled with a K. And so it is just
Incredible.
the Muncie Post-Democrat provided the perfect platform for him to publish their names for all to see. And he was pithy about it.
Yeah.
Like that's Sad Bait's exact words. He was pithy about it. There's a guy named Paul Axline. George Dale writes about Paul Axline in his section called Zanesville Classy Klan Cripples, all with K's.
Oh my God. Okay.
He said Paul Axline could not pay his dues, so they kicked him out. C.W. Edgar, gasoline station, burns a lot of juice and hides behind Old Glory. Buck Cunningham, his head is as soft as the cakes he sells. Cakes is spelled all with K's.
Oh my God.
And Paul Shaw, Paul is 100% a cuckoo nut. Another such trolling he had is when he printed the following in his newspaper.
Okay.
Ain't it grand to be a 100% American and wear your wife's nightie and a Mother Goose cap and a shalahoot around the country at night on wind broken plug? It's getting a hell of a lot for $10.
Jesus.
Because he kept pointing out that the Klan robes are $10.
Yeah.
And it's made the Klan millions.
Yeah.
He's like, y'all are buying your wife's nightie for $10. You know that's a $1 nightie. So he just keeps laying into these guys. He points out more and more. So here's some more. This one I liked a lot. Duvall Brothers. This is a wholesale meat group.
Yeah.
This is like a meat market. This is inside that call out group. Duvall Brothers, wholesale meat, East National Pike. Retail meat market is on West Main 154. Of course, he has a stand in the city market, hands out all of the old beef and quarter to the 100% cuckoos.
Oh, you know what? I mean, this
Because
is...
he's pointing out, he's like, they're fucking you.
Yeah.
He's literally giving out old beef for free to Klansmen.
Yeah.
And he's charging you.
Yeah.
Here's where he's doing it. This is the exact thing. Oh, you think Donald Trump loves you? Then why didn't he give you free Trump coin?
No, he gave it to his boys.
Mm-hmm.
Well, no, I was also thinking like this happens. We see this happen on social media in tidbits where like that real estate agent that wrote that mean thing on the receipt, right? And then everybody called the Century 21 she worked at, and she got fired.
Yeah.
And like this, so we see this happen in little spurts, or like some business does, like a bar, restaurant does something fucking insane.
Yeah.
And then everybody's like gets in their Yelp reviews or their Google reviews, and then suddenly they got shut down by the liberals and
by cancel culture.
They
got canceled by cancel culture. I love in this reading down it. He really points out over and over again. Not only are these guys assholes, not only are they hiding, but also that they're fucking hypocrites. Yeah. Because in a lot of these cases, these are small business owners. Or they're liars. Yeah. So in one, Paul Shaw, again, Cooper Mill Road, he said the Knights of the Flaming Sword was no good. Now Paul is 100% cuckoo nut. Like, he's like, look, this guy used to tell you he hated the Klan. Yeah. Much like Nancy Mace. Nancy Mace used to say she stood with the LGBTQ. And now she's out here screaming about trans people in bathrooms. Yeah. That one hand, they said they're on this side. Here's another one. Dutchy Gilly. He's a grocer. Shawm Avenue. He made his $10 to join the gang of cutthroats selling sauerkraut to the Irish and his Dutch friends. Ooh. Because again, in this area, you had a lot of Irish and you had a lot of Dutch people and Germans and others moving into Indiana. Yeah. Through immigration, because we had a big influx of immigration post-World War I. Yes. And these guys lose their mind. Instead of just welcoming their neighbors, they see them and they say, oh, I can make a buck off of them, but I don't want to see them after I get that dollar. Yeah, I'm going to sell them you're making sauerkraut? Yeah, the same way in Nebraska. Who will care about the Nebraska farmers? Well, not Nebraska, because they voted to get rid of all of the migrants who've been coming through to work those fucking farms. Yeah. As I've seen across TikTok. Yeah. This is just, again, we're doing the same story.
This. Okay, because this to me, okay, I haven't read a newspaper on paper since... I was waiting tables probably, because that's back when we had free newspapers, like City Paper, the City Philadelphia Paper, Weekly, and the Philadelphia Weekly, which they had like the papers on the side of the road, boxes, and you would just grab them. And so every day pre-shift when we were doing our side work and having our cigarettes, we would read through them. And there was misconnections in the back.
Yeah, yeah.
And like there was like fun ads.
Dan Savage had a column.
Dan Savage had a
I
column.
love Dan Savage's column back
And
then.
so it was like we all read the newspaper pre-shift as we were like having our coffees or whatever,
Yeah.
trying to get over our hangovers.
Yep.
At 4 p.m.
Yep.
And so it's like the back of those misconnections, those things where there was another name for them, but that would be what this was. Because like, again, I'm picking up the newspaper, I'm reading the articles, I'm reading what's going on in this city, I'm reading about the mayor's bullshit, I'm reading about this, and then I get to the end of it and I'm like, oh my god, I cannot wait to see which fucking Klan member who's like, oh, it's Bill.
Yeah.
It's a Bill from the deli.
Yeah.
I can't wait to tell Samantha because she's friends with his wife.
Yeah.
Like this would have been gossip.
And let me tell you something. Let me tell you what's crazy.
Yeah.
He never got sued by these people for defamation.
Well, because you have to prove you're false.
Yeah, exactly. And so he never
And
got
he was
sued.
like, I'll get the membership info.
He
at
gets into,
Discovery.
we're gonna get into more of the trouble he gets into,
Yeah.
but like when it came down to like nobody ever walks up and is like, I'm not a member of the Klan, because nobody also, the feeling was everyone was a member of the Klan, so you didn't want to come out if he prints your name and says fuck you, you're in the Klan.
Yeah.
And then you step forward and go, this is bullshit, I'm not in the Klan. Well, now you're going to be an enemy of the Klan.
Yeah, now you're an enemy of the
because
Klan.
now you're saying being a member of the Klan, so you're stuck.
Yeah.
And it's I think you and I have been talking about a lot ever since Elon Musk threw the salute and all these other guys. It's like,
Why are they denying it?
Why pretend you're not?
Okay, I've been screaming about this since the election, is that I don't understand why Elon and all his little people on the internet and Trump and all these people every day lie to our faces. Like, why is he throwing a Nazi salute but then being like, I'm not a Nazi? Like, at this point, he's the pseudo president. Just say you are. Like, stop gaslighting us and stop lying to our faces like we're idiots.
It's because the reason why is because just like the Klan back then, the true psychos
Yeah.
are not more than 3.5% of the country.
Yeah.
They are sock puppets that need things like the Electoral College and other things to make themselves seem like they're a majority.
Yeah.
When you look at the election, Donald Trump won 22.3% of the total United States population.
Yeah.
He's yelling he has this massive mandate. I won 51%. First thing, you didn't win 51% of the total electorate. You won sub 50.
Yeah.
Kamala won less, sure, but you didn't even win 50.
Yeah.
And then if we took out the actual population, we take all the people who couldn't vote and all the people who chose not to vote, you only won 22.8% or something around those.
Yeah.
So when we look at these numbers, they don't have the true mandate that they don't have the mandate of the people.
Yeah.
They have the mandate of billionaires, and they have the mandate of sock puppets, and they have the mandate of algorithms that are controlled by billionaires. And that's the same exact thing that happened in 1924. These fuckers would put on these robes. They would hold their little rallies. They would pretend that they were every white Protestant in the town is Klan. Mm-hmm. And as George started to point out, no, they aren't.
Yeah.
Let's if you're so proud of it,
Yeah.
pull up your fucking hood. And that's the same thing, Elon. If you're so proud of it, just put the goddamn armband on.
Yeah.
Stop pretending you aren't because you still want to be invited to parties.
Because you still want to be able to sell the Irish food, even though you hate the Irish.
Yeah, you
still
still
want to sell sauerkraut and cabbage, even though you don't like the Germans coming in.
Yeah, you still want Black Twitter to buy the blue checks.
Yeah.
You still want people to drive a Cybertruck. You still want just to make your sales nation and internationally while screaming about globalists.
Yeah.
You still want to do all this shit. You still want to be accepted by everyone while screaming that most of us are parasites and scum.
Yeah.
And George Dale pointed this out.
Yeah, because he hates a hypocrite.
It should be noted that this is, again, from the notes. It should be noted that the enduring notion that the KKK was and is largely rural, uneducated bumpkins back then, because it still is viewed that same way today,
Yeah.
Was an issue.
Yeah.
Is this idea of the country bumpkin hick, I don't like none of them Irish coming in here.
Yeah.
That's what most people's view of the Klan. George is one of the ones who also need to point out that those guys are completely propped up by the Indiana Klan outfit because they are hiding out in the wealthy, in the affluent, in the respected upper class. They're the ones, Oh, you can't afford a robe? Don't worry, I got you. We'll give you a robe scholarship. Oh, you can't get over there? Oh, I got you. Oh, we need a tent for the rally? Mm-hmm. Somebody has to supply this shit.
Yeah, because they're judges, they're cops, they're lawyers.
Mm-hmm.
They've infiltrated all these other areas so that they can push their agenda, and then they keep these low-income, low-education people at the forefront so that everybody doesn't pay attention to the fact that they've infiltrated all these other things. Like, oh, those guys clearly can't get anything done.
Yeah.
They're living in this low-income housing, and they're yelling on the internet, and they have bad dental care. Like, they're clearly not getting anything done, but they're props at this point is what you're telling me.
But also, it's one of those things where there's always, we heard about this the first time Trump got elected. It's economic anxiety. It's the price of eggs. No, it isn't.
Oh, God.
Because many rich people, many affluent people, many people who have traveled the world and done all this other shit and know and are educated are also there.
Yeah.
And they're also doing this shit. You can't sit here. That's the thing you and I yell about all the time about how they don't give any of these women agency inside the MAGA movement.
Oh, my God. Let me yell about this.
Go ahead. Go ahead, Mrs. Hold on. Everybody. Prepare your soapboxes because Mrs. P is about to talk.
No, I'm not going to yell. But no, this is a thing that bothers me so much. And I screamed about it a lot after, what would we watch? The Grammys? Was it when Kanye and the wife?
Oh, yeah.
This what started it is because Kanye's current wife, they were on the red carpet, and then she took off her clothes and she stood there in the nude, basically. She had like something sheer on, but she was basically nude. And I had posted on Threads a comment about it, about how if the roles were reversed and Kanye or any man had dropped all their clothing off and stood there in the nude, there'd be criminal charges.
He would have been arrested on the spot.
It would have been arrested on the spot. It's a crime of indecency to just be naked, especially with photographers and all this stuff happening. And also, it later came out that there was a child nearby who, like, there's pictures of this child looking at her like, whoa, what's going on? And so just this act of indecency. And the immediate response I got in the comments was people being like, well, she's clearly a victim of some type of domestic violence. She's a victim of this marriage and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, that could be true. None of us know that for sure. That's something we're assuming based on what we can see aesthetically as a power dynamic, right? But we talked about this in a different episode, is that you can be a victim and still perpetrate other actions of crimes, right? So like, she may be a victim in this relationship, but that was still a civil and criminal crime. Like, she could be sued by the state of California for that. Every photographer could sue her. Like, there could have been criminal charges, right? So like, I was yelling about that because people started coming at me as though I was victim blaming her. And I was like, no. Like, I understand that, but also what she did was wrong. And if Kanye did it, it would have been a whole other thing. So the thing that then made my brain go is that, like, it's always women that have chosen to pair themselves in these relationships with these fascist men, that we as a society then immediately infantilize them. It's like, oh, well, she's a victim, so she has no agency. No, she has agency to get with Kanye when he does all kinds of Nazi stuff. Yeah. And then like Asha Vance. Yeah. So like J.D. Vance's wife, people are like, oh, well,
Melania.
Melania. Oh, well, she's clearly like this, like, we don't ever give the women that choose these fascist partners agency in their own choice to side with their own abuser, and their choice to side with the oppressor in this way. And like, I want someone smarter than me to do a deep dive and help me understand it and explain it to me, because there's something as a society where we look at women who have chosen to be with these partners, and then we immediately go, oh, well, they don't have that agency. They're there's clearly something going on. They're being burdened in some way with violent behavior or this negative thing. And I'm like, I don't think so. I think Melania knew what the fuck she was doing. She found her golden calf. She had a kid with him. yes, she clearly fucking hates him, but that hasn't stopped her from showing up at the White House 2 times in a row.
Yeah.
And like Usha Vance, not Asha. Usha Vance, like same thing is like she had children with that man. He talks negatively about people from her ethnic background, and she had his kids. Like she knows what she's doing. And so it blows my mind, and I might have screamed about it for 2 days straight. There's something in our psyche about it, and I don't know how to unpack it because I need someone smarter than me to please explain it to me. Thank you so much.
So, somebody who actually, I'm not gonna say is smarter than you.
Yeah.
But what you just said was brought up by George Dale in 1924.
Oh, really?
And actually was driven hard nails. He drove into the women of the Ku Klux Klan and the ones who were actually standing besides their man and pretending that they weren't doing that. And we're going to talk about that right after this. Welcome back. Here we are after your epic rant there about the agency of MAGA women.
Yeah.
I want to talk a little bit how George Dale went after the camellias of the Ku Klux Klan.
Oh, with a K?
Yeah. That's what they called themselves.
The camellias?
They called themselves the camellias. So there were thousands of women involved.
Yes.
With the KKK. And a big part of what they would do is they were the ones literally feeding.
Yeah.
Literally feeding the Klan. They were also the ones who were literally stitching the gowns.
Yep.
They're doing all this different thing. But there's 2 in particular that George Dale went after. And one of these is I never heard of. And she's so crazy that I want to point a little bit more towards. So one of this is a person named Helen Jackson.
Okay.
Okay, now you were raised Catholic.
Yes.
I have a question. Are nuns tortured in pits underneath the places where priests learn how to become priests?
No.
Okay. Wrong.
Oh, okay.
That is according to Helen Jackson.
Oh.
So there's a thing that happened in America. I think a lot of people forget that America had a massive anti-Catholic bias running until basically the 60s. John F. Kennedy was America's first Catholic president.
And we saw what they did to him.
Yes. And it was a massive deal that he got elected. There was a feeling in this country that anyone who was Catholic could not be loyal to the United States of America, the U.S. Constitution, and the Pope. Because if the Pope is infallible and every Catholic is supposed to listen to the Pope, then how could you follow the Constitution, sir?
Well, the Constitution says we don't have a king, so like...
Exactly, but the Pope himself has a crown. These are some of the arguments that they would use. It was also being noticed that many of the immigrants in the 1920s who were coming in were either Irish or they were from Southern Europe.
Yes.
And even some from Eastern Europe were at higher Catholic populations. So you had a lot of Italians who were Catholic. Yeah. You have some Spanish who were Catholic. You have all these different groups of people who were coming in, even some Catholic Germans who were coming into the country. And what do we have who are already here? White Protestants who control everything, looking around and being like, no, this is great. We love the bodies. I need to make sure that I have a class of people who will keep these Irish in check. I need to make sure that these Irish and these Italians and these others don't step up and eventually usurp my crown as the king of, I don't know, marble kitchen counters.
Got it.
You know what I mean? Like stuff like that. So eventually different grifters stepped forward. And one was named Helen Jackson, and Helen Jackson had a book called Convent Cruelties.
Okay.
And what her deal was Helen would travel across the United States, and she would tell people about how she is an escaped nun.
Oh.
Who was tortured in Rome's convent slave pens.
Oh.
Now, here's the thing.
Okay, wait. Listen. This joke might be mean, and I'm sorry, but that one woman who's from North Korea, who's you know what I'm talking about?
Yes, that's 100% what I was gonna do.
She's always like in North Korea. And you're like, but like at first you're like, yeah, that I'm sure that there are a lot of horrible things in North Korea, but I was like, I feel like she's grifting.
Yeah, no, there's a certain point. But so what she did is she would claim that these slave pens and all this crazy shit that they do to the nuns, basically they were like, no, they trick white women into becoming nuns and then they torture us.
Oh, okay.
And the whole thing is that these are ex-Catholics. And this is happening in America. This isn't happening in Italy. All these different things. She claimed that there were tunnels between the convent and the parish.
P. Diddy tunnels?
Yes, 100%. That the priests would go underground. They would walk through these tunnels. They would pop up in the convent. They'd assault the nuns.
Okay.
The nuns would get pregnant, and then they would sacrifice the children by throwing them in the river.
Okay.
Yeah, that they were then doing necromancy and killing the children, which I want to point out, when it comes to Catholics and kids, killing them wasn't the problem.
It's not.
It's not the problem.
It's not.
But they had all these different things. They had there's an image here from from Convent Cruelties of the other nuns forcing her to drink dirty soup. All these different things. It was a heavy thing, and she was promoted heavily in the Fiery Cross, the Klan's newspaper. She was pushed across the United States. She also, again, isn't the first person to do this. There is a book called The Awful Disclosures of Maria Monk.
Okay.
And a lot of this was based in Victorian and actually over in England because the English were very anti-Catholic because of...
What?
Yeah, I know, because of the Church of England and the split with Henry VIII going all the way back. But that was so thoroughly debunked that it became its own trope.
Yeah.
It became its own joke where it was almost like a Catholic exploitation horror. Whereas you had these things where it was like... In the 70s and 80s, you have this whole thing of like Turkish prisons, Turkish women's prisons become like this whole subgenre of movie and porn that gets out there. They had books that were just about like nuns being tortured.
Yeah.
And it became this whole like dirty book. And when it came to America, they went, no, this is true.
Yeah. That
And
classic America.
And so it's sprinkled.
Classic America not being able to have the... what's it when the media literacy
discernment?
Yeah, they don't have the media literacy. They're
Yeah.
like, no, this is true immediately.
Yeah. So they
Can I tell you something real quick that I was thinking of? You said these ladies call themselves the Camillas, right?
Yeah, camellias.
Camellias after the flower.
Yeah.
I'm assuming with a K though.
Yeah.
And they call themselves that, the Camellias.
Yes.
He didn't make that up. My brain tinged because the camellia flower with a C is the historical logo flower of Chanel, the fashion house. Chanel, who famously
was a Nazi. Man, someday we'll be able to hit this. You know what? Someday, I'm going to be able to hit this no Nazi guarantee
Not
button.
today. Not today, buddy.
Actually, as I'm scrolling this article to pull more stuff to tell you about, Maria Monk actually almost married Samuel Morse.
Wait, what?
The inventor of the telegraph.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's how famous she was. Some of these people became incredibly famous. You know, in 1928, a Catholic ran for president, Al Smith. Again, it was a huge issue, and this is what the Klan really pulls on and starts building up and pushing these different things. But George pushed back on her. George wasn't going to let her get away with this bullshit just because she's a woman.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that was another big thing that they were trying to hide behind.
Exactly. I can't do it. I'm just a little woman.
Oh, yeah, exactly. I'm just a woman, and how dare he go after it? No, he went after her.
Yeah.
Hard. He said, Helen Jackson coming. Because she was coming to Muncie.
Yeah.
Helen Jackson, the fake nun who was brought here by the Ku Klux Klan last summer, is billed for another engagement here at Campbell's Auditorium. It is said that the Ku Klux Klan plucked up courage and decided to bring the woman back after winning in the recent election. And then he goes on to like list all these different things. Helen and other of these fake nuns actually started riots at Notre Dame.
Oh.
Because Notre Dame, famously the Fighting Irish.
Yeah.
In a Catholic university,
Yep.
The Klan and Helen Jackson, all these different would show up and be claiming that, no, your women are actually being assaulted by your priests and you're doing all this different stuff.
Oh, they were like the people that protest just so they can get kicked out?
Yeah, kind of. But no, except they were really showing up because they were trying to intimidate. They were
Yeah.
actually trying to intimidate the people of Notre Dame.
Yeah.
And the people of South Bend, Indiana. And they got the shit beat out of it. It was a full-bore riot.
Well.
In the society page... not only with Helen Jackson, but he goes after Mrs. Jim Fitzsimmons, Camellia leader and designer of the shrouds. Mrs. Officer Harborough, 10th Street, keeps step to step on the tom-toms in all parades. She's the one who's literally hitting the drums.
Oh.
Helen Jackson is a Clucker ex-nun, and she is the record holder of 100% lies and will speak here soon, according to the statement of the local Camellia Committee. North Park Place sheiks, watch this gold digger. She'll soak you $10 for dinner with trimmings.
Jeez, bro.
Yeah.
Also, the playing the drums for the parade.
Yeah.
Like that is so it.
Yeah.
That is it.
They're literally keeping the beat.
They're keeping the beat. The women of the Klan are the ones holding it all down. It's kind of like that whole thing where in 2020 when a lot of marriages broke up because women started through social media understanding this idea of like emotional labor in the household and how like, you know, doing all the grocery shopping and keeping the house and remembering that there's no milk and like all this stuff. And at the same time, this realization that like men like, oh, he's so successful. He's, you know, he's a father of 4 and he has all these accomplishments. And it's like none of those accomplishments would have happened if there wasn't a woman at home making sure he had clean, pressed shirts and the kids were fed and that, you know, someone picked up his prescriptions and like all this stuff of like these women are so integral to the success because they're the ones beating the drum for the parade.
Yeah.
And it's like, I'm so glad he's calling them out.
Yeah. No, and these different these ex-nuns,
they're not really ex.
no, they were never actually nuns.
No.
They were never nuns. They are
I'm a never nun.
Yeah. But they would hold these rallies and they were selling their books.
Yeah.
And we know what they strike me as?
What?
Ex-transitioners.
Oh, yes.
It's the same idea in the TERF world with the trans exclusionary radical feminists or others, or you have ex
J.K. Rowling's.
No, but this grift is always done really well with the ex-transitioners. There's one right now who's running around called Maya Poet, who it's been proven that not only did she never actually transition, but that it's now being accused that her mom herself is like a pretty big member of the TERF anti-gender studies sciences movement. She's a complete liar, and they said her transition was a haircut. And there's others like this, but you know, in his stupid fucking speech he gave the other day, Donald Trump pointed to somebody,
that
woman,
lady, that mom,
January Littlejohn, they claimed that her daughter was stolen from her. You know, her child was taken because her child by the they thems and all this different stuff, and they changed their name and their pronouns and all this different stuff, and she just lost the femininity, was ripped from her child. That is a load of shit. January Littlejohn lived in Florida, and in I think it was 2020 or 2021 she reached out to a teacher and said that that they're working with her daughter about social transition. And that her daughter wants to use they them pronouns and blah blah blah, and went to the whole thing, and the teacher replied and was like, hey, that's awesome, am I allowed to share this with other teachers? We have a transition program here, like you came to us and said that this was happening. And then she changed the story and she flipped it and immediately sued the school and became part of the entire schools are trying to
Moms for Liberty
bullshit, and because it's a money-making thing. And when you watch her face during that speech, you see somebody who is going to be no contact and will be alone in the nursing home. These are the same. These people who claim this, the people who they'll be, I'm an ex-Muslim, or I'm an ex-this, I'm an ex-that, ex-gays. Remember a lot of the transitions?
I'm an ex-leftist.
All these.
You got to do the pivot.
Oh, yeah, a lot of those. Ian Carroll. Ian Carroll from Cancel This Clothing Company. Tim Pool is an ex-leftist.
Yeah.
A lot of them, they get their start as saying, I used to be, listen, you guys, everything you believe about them is real. And that's what Helen Jackson did, along with others, is their whole thing would be to go around and claim that they had secret information.
Okay. Secret nun information.
Yep.
Just, they know the Beatitudes way better than everybody else.
Yeah.
Rulers on the knuckles, y'all.
Yeah, here's an image of, this is supposed to be Helen escaping the Fort St. Convent in Detroit, Michigan.
Yeah,
that was her whole thing, is she was being kept in an evil convent in Detroit. But, George called them out, and George pointed out anybody, because some people might go to this just to be like, oh, I want to see what this is. And
there's nothing else to do.
But also, this isn't sold immediately as a Klan rally. It's being sold as the story, the crazy stories. Oh my God, the bawdy stories.
Yeah, it's Shen Yun.
Yeah.
Come in for the dancing.
Oh my God, it's Shen Yun.
It's Shen Yun.
Oh my God, I didn't even put that one together. Yeah, this is Shen Yun. You come in for this one thing, and before you know it, you are a member of a secret cult. That is also an MLM that has a newspaper. Mm-hmm. Everything is Shen Yun. With this, though, it's around this time when she's coming through that the Klan does take more power.
Okay.
So it's the early 20s through 24 and further that George Dale is speaking about these people. Mm-hmm. And in 1924... a terrible thing happens, and I'm going to read it from the cover of the Fiery Cross. Quote, this is from November 7th, 1924. Quote, Protestant ticket sweepstakes. National papal machine smashed. A Christian gentleman is now the governor of Indiana. Major Ed Jackson elected governor by a wide margin. Roman candidates beaten, badly beaten all over the country. Roman thugs attack law-abiding citizens. 200,000 will attend meet. Because that's what happens. In November 7th, 1924, the Klan wins across the nation.
Yeah.
They seem transcendent.
Yeah.
They seem like they'll never end. They hold all the levers of power across Indiana in particular, but also across the nation. And George stood there in front of people and said repeatedly that this would happen. He wrote an amazing poem telling people to guard their vote. In it, he wrote, for once the Klan gets control, may God have mercy on your soul. They'll use the thumbscrew and the rack, put tar and feathers on your back. If you ever fail to bow the knee and speak up like a man that's free, so voters guard your little vote, be sure to guard it well. For once the cluckers get it, your taxes will be hell.
Well.
They raised tariffs the next year. So George tried. Hold on.
No, you're telling me that they don't like the Romans. Then why are they doing Roman salutes? Riddle me this.
So with that, George tried to stop it.
Okay,
and he couldn't.
Yeah.
But then, did George bend the knee? No.
No, absolutely not.
And then George started to fight back. And guys, I'm gonna tell you what a real person who just fucking doesn't like what's happening, what happens when they stand up, and how they win. Right after this. If you're too busy to cook, that doesn't mean you should give up on your health goals and eat out all the time. There are other options like Factor's 2-minute meals. Factor arrives fresh and fully prepared. All you do is heat and eat. Hey, are you trying to cut down your meal prep like Mrs. P and I are sometimes? Are you just too busy? Are you just too busy to make sure that you're eating healthy? Factor meals are there for you right at the right time, whether or not you're too busy or you're already having such a good time that you don't want to have to stop and cook a meal for an hour to get yourself ready throughout the week. Factor's the best way to make sure you're eating healthy and sticking to that budget. With 40 meal options across 8 dietary preferences on the menu each week, it's easy to pick meals that are tailored to your goals. Being busy doesn't have to derail your routine anymore. Choose from preferences like Calorie Smart, Protein Plus, or Keto. There's truly something for everyone. Eat smart with Factor. Get started at factormeals.com/factorpodcast and use code FACTORPODCAST to get 50% off your first box plus free shipping. That's code FACTORPODCAST at factormeals.com/factorpodcast to get 50% off plus free shipping on your first box. So before the Klan really took power, George was physically targeted for violence.
Yes.
On March 24th, 1922, Dale and his oldest son, Bud, were attacked in their family home by bandits in black masks. Roughly at 10:30 p.m., 2 cars stopped at their home on Mulberry Street. The masked men broke in, and one pointed a handgun on Dale's ribcage. Gun right to his ribcage.
Yeah.
Dale immediately wrestled the revolver away from the man and shot him.
Nice.
He straight up just went, Oh, better call the ambulance, but not for me.
It's like the TikTok where it's like, be ashamed. Don't call the police.
Oh no, don't call the police.
That's a lot of paperwork.
That's paperwork. His son was attacked and then chased out by another bandit. What provoked this attack, according to Dale, was one of his own editorials that morning calling out the Klan. But guess what he did? He turned around and he printed in the newspaper.
I was gonna say he put it in the newspaper again. Right?
This is.
I shot one of them.
It literally said, "I killed a man," says Muncie editor. And then there's pictures of this is how I did it. Oh no, don't shoot me. Gotcha. Gotcha. It's an incredible image. They also have an assailant's mask. It's in the George R. Dale scrapbook.
Oh, did he rip
it
off?
It's a website. I don't know if this is the official one, but they have image of the. And it does actually. The mask captured by the Dales. And this is from a different newspaper.
The mask after he shot the guy. Incredible.
Yeah, and they kept it. The George R. Dale scrapbook is a website. I'll link to it down below, but it has a lot of newspaper clippings and others that Sad Beige was able to find through this website, and we're just like, what? And like that's what's crazy. We have so many things directly, just him just being like, and then they tried to kill me. Fuck you. The summer of 22, again, this is before 24 when they went everything. Yeah. But there was a massive Ku Klux Klan presence. It was becoming more and more obvious. In June, a black man named Robert Bledsoe was kidnapped and beaten by men in black masks. A city attorney and Clarence Benadam denied any connection of the incident with the Klan. But that city attorney was not only affiliated with the Klan, but later he would join the Silver Shirts, which is a Mussolini-inspired group. Yeah. Like, these guys are open. Yeah. The threats were substantial, both on George Dale and on his family. Yes. To the point where George bought a gun. Mm-hmm. But to do that in Indiana at the time, you had to have a permit. So in November of 1922, Dale applied for a gun permit, and the chief of police immediately gave him one. Oh, really? Immediately. Yep.
I thought you were going to say denied him.
No, he gave it to him.
Yeah.
And then he arrested him for carrying a gun despite having the permit.
I'm sorry.
And claiming that the permit was not real. This was completely a setup. Dale was convicted by a judge and fined $90 2 years later because it dragged out the sentence. Yeah. This was the beginning of Dale's legal troubles. Mm-hmm. Dale would begin to be thrown into jail so often, Delaware County Jail in Indiana. He would get thrown into jail so often that the inmates began to applaud George every time he came into.
It's like, nice to see you again, George. Yeah,
here's a picture of George, George Dale and his fellow prisoners.
God.
They're smoking a cigarette. He's in a suit. Everybody's like, hey, George, welcome back. Like, what'd you do? Pissed off the judge.
Well, it goes to show that they always stick by the playbook, right?
They do.
If they can't get you to shut up, they're going to arrest you and they're going to sue you because they know that legal costs are prohibitive to most people.
There was a KKK judge. Everybody knew he was a KKK judge. His name's Clarence Dirth, who George...
Clarence Thomas?
No, Clarence Dirth. He said that this judge said that he supported a newly proposed law that would sterilize the feeble-minded. It was a eugenics law that was being pushed in the area so anyone under a certain IQ or that would be labeled as developmentally challenged today, they would be sterilized. Yeah. Chemically castrated. Dale sarcastically wrote in his paper that he agreed with the judge because if that policy were enacted one generation ago, there wouldn't be a Klan.
Nice.
That was one of the things that got him targeted. While Dale was conducting an interview in the office of a lawyer, police burst into the room searching for liquor.
Oh.
And despite no findings,
no liquor,
they still indicted Dale for possession of liquor. They didn't find anything. They still were like, no, and actually,
they didn't even bother planting it?
They didn't even bother, they couldn't find it. They didn't even bother planting it, anything.
They were just like, we thought it might be there.
Yeah. Eventually, a year later, they dismissed that charge.
Yeah.
However, because he was fighting the charges and talking about them in the newspaper, he got a contempt charge by Clarence Dirth.
Yeah, of course.
The same guy. Clarence Dirth was like, no, but you're still in contempt.
Yeah.
Sure. There was bullshit. You are an anti-saloon guy who hates liquor, whose entire career began on ending liquor, and we tried claiming you were a fucking bootlegger.
Yeah.
But you were
They're like, well, you do have a bathtub.
Yeah. For the trial, on the contempt charge trial,
Yeah.
George submitted into evidence the exact editorial that he said pissed off Clarence Dirth. Quote, "If you don't like it in Muncie, why don't you move to Russia?" That's what the editorial
Shut the fuck up. Did he say that?
Yeah. The very act of using the editorial as defense was then used for a direct contempt charge. And he was sent to jail for making the defense. He was released on an appeal bond of $2,500 in 1924. He was he was given another charge.
Yeah.
90-day sentence and another fine of $500. Years of a single legal battle followed the direct contempt charge. But this did not stop Dale in the same time frame from writing, quote, "The Ku Klux Klan is a lawless, felonious, hypocritical gown of night-riding, murderous outlaws." Newspaper clippings from 1926 further dives into the legal troubles of contempt. The Indiana Klan justice takes editors all. He faces things. He goes through more and more. And in 1927, as these legal battles go back and forth, he writes to all of his subscribers to the Post-Democrat, asking them for more help in his long legal battle against these people. Mm-hmm. And then, you know what happens?
What?
The Klan starts to recede.
Okay.
They do.
Yeah.
And in 1928, George Dale runs for mayor of Muncie, Indiana.
Okay. Does he win?
So in 1928, George Dale runs for mayor.
Yeah.
1929.
Got it.
He runs for mayor. And he wins.
Yes.
He wins and becomes the
Hell yeah.
mayor of Muncie, Indiana. And his first action,
Okay.
first thing he does,
Yeah.
he fires the entire Muncie police force.
Hell yeah, dude.
He shows up. He's like, "All y'all are Klan. Fuck you. You're fired."
Yeah.
He fires every single one of them. Quote, "Because of his distrust in the department and he believed only served corrupt forces."
Yep.
The 39 members were asked to give their resignations on the same day he was inaugurated.
I love that so much.
Yeah. He literally looked at it and goes, "Some of you who serve forces are the same that burns crosses."
Yeah.
Get the
I
fuck out of here.
never heard that before.
Never heard that either. George and his sons and several others were on their way to a Democratic convention when they were stopped by Indiana State Police
Stadies.
and then charged with possession of liquor. Again.
Okay. Got it.
Not only were the frame-ups like this done consistently to him in the Klan years, but he also had a record as a staunch dry going all the way back. All the way back. Everybody knows. So he continued to hold that the people framing him were the bootleggers of Muncie themselves,
Yeah.
who were so upset at him for stopping their operations and often outing him.
Yeah.
All during the same weekend, Dale was put in the county jail. Mm-hmm. He was
The mayor is in jail
The
now.
mayor is in the county jail
Okay.
because he was transferred to Indianapolis jail, and then he was released by a $10,000 bond by Monday. His arraignment took place on March 17th, where he pled not guilty. He was indicted by a federal grand jury in Indianapolis and went to trial on May 16th. 22 charges were made against the defense. One witness during the trial admitted that he had been hired by the city council of Muncie to find dirt on Dale.
Oh my God.
At one point in the trial, it was claimed that Dale was having an affair with the wife of a police sergeant, and I can't tell you about how that is definitely not happening from looking at this man.
Yeah.
They're like, "No, he fired that sergeant because he was fucking his wife." What about the other 39 sergeants?
Well.
Days later, on the 20th, he was found guilty on conspiracy to violate national prohibition, the thing that he pushed.
Yeah.
They claimed that he was the one.
I assume they
doing it.
planted bottles this time.
I don't know about that part. I didn't really get into that.
Yeah, I know.
On June 3rd, George Dale was given an 18-month sentence and a $1,000 fine, but he was released on a bond within a week. He was able to prolong the legal back and forth for a while by filing appeals to the Delaware County Superior Court, and eventually there was enough evidence of his innocence specifically that there was a perjury in the case. They were able to prove that, look, these fuckers are lying.
Yeah.
That President FDR himself, Franklin Delano Roosevelt, pardoned George Dale personally on December of 1933.
Hell yeah.
But even with all of this whole event destroyed any chances of Dale getting anything done as the mayor of Muncie. George Dale continued writing for the remainder of his life after his term as mayor. From 1935 through the spring of 1936, he continued to write and he continued to fight against the Klan and hypocrisy. His death was met with probably the most flattering and lengthiest piece about him in the evening press. And other obituaries were written, flowering obituaries in the New York Times, the Chicago Tribune, and Time magazine.
Nice.
He was, at this point, he went from reviled in 1922 to a hero in 1936 with everything else he went through. When asked about his motivation, his oldest son, Bud, said, quote, he simply hated hypocrisy. He hated it.
Yeah.
And that was the explanation I've decidedly held on to. His youngest son, Jack, stated at one point that hypocrisy wasn't the motivation.
No.
The motivation, the original driving force, was money.
Wait, what?
It was money.
Wait, what do you mean?
When George got to Muncie, he realized everyone else was basically a Klan newspaper.
Yeah.
So there was no one was taking.
There was an open market.
There's an open market.
Got it.
For people who hated the Klan. There was an open market for Irish and Dutch and other immigrants. There was an open market for black people to read this. And he was like, well, fuck it. I'll just sell newspapers to them. And then the fucking Klan was like, hey, fuck you. We'll kill you. And he was like, bitch, what? You're going to threaten my job? And before you knew it, he entered into a stubborn fight for the next decade with the Klan, because it wasn't until his livelihood was threatened that it became rare for him to back down. And so they literally said, even with my surviving family members who were just a couple generations closer to the story, we still like don't quite know what the real thing is. But I really do believe that's probably what happened. And the reason why I think I know why that's what happened, Mrs. P, because we have to give shout outs to our Patreons.
I mean, I wasn't going to say that sometimes you just need to yell into the night about things and then people have a subscription to that yelling.
Yeah. Sometimes people subscribe to support the yelling.
Yeah.
And then sometimes you get sent a series of threats because you yell at too many things. And it becomes a feedback
loop. And sometimes
loop.
people try to sue you about it.
And sometimes people do. Or they at least send you a cease and desist.
Yeah.
BetterHelp.
Allegedly.
But the Mrs. P.
Yes.
I think I just wanted everybody to know about this story.
I'm obsessed with this story. This is so good.
Yeah, well, the reason why is like this article, like when I heard about this, I talked about it a little bit, at the beginning of the episode. I was really, really depressed.
Yeah.
I was in a really, really bad state the last couple months and just trying to figure out, but between George Dale, John Brown, and others, I've been starting to realize that like, we've been through all of this before.
As Americans.
Americans
have survived this. They've beaten it. Mm-hmm. There has people that have been thrived. I don't know.
Yeah, thrived.
I was thriving. Whatever. But like they're...
Thrivened.
That's what my brain was doing. I was like,
no, I made up a word. I made up that word.
But no, that my brain was making it up too.
Yeah.
But so this idea of like not feeling defeated because because there's so many people in power that we disagree with and like all this stuff, like there are these little lights that are like, no, this can be done.
Yeah.
And that's what got you out of bed, like Willy Wonka's grandpa.
It was just one of those things of just like seeing, yes, you can see the hard times.
Yeah.
But like, I think there is something about believing that you would never face it is, yeah, sure. Did our parents face it? Did our grandparents have to face this? No. Not in this way. Maybe, but the thing is actually with my grandparents, maybe they did. They just didn't talk about it because they thought it was done.
Yeah.
And so like,
okay, there it is.
We're through these generational waves and we like to pretend that the evil thing and the bad stuff will never happen again, which is what opens it up for it happening. So we have to go look back. Yeah. And the thing I want to point out to everyone is that a lot of this research was done through a local library and through the help of librarians. So once again, the best way to battle fascism, racism, and just the doldrums of life is to make sure that you're being connected to your local library and making sure that you are supporting people inside your community by making sure that these options are available for everyone.
Yes.
And with that, Mrs. P, we want to thank the people who are making this podcast available to everyone one, and that is our Patreon members over at Pearlmania500.net. Let's give some shout outs, and I swear I am not going to sell the subscription list.
Pearlmania, 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 Pearlmania
500.net. If you want to join our Patreon today and get access to things like the warm-up and Mrs. P's monthly vibing with the food idiot.
Your brain started.
Yes.
We've been going a little long.
I've been going a little long, and I have to go run to another interview here in a second.
Yeah.
So let's go ahead and get through, but let's go ahead and give shout outs to the people who deserve the shout outs the most, the people who give us money. Okay. Starting out, we have Dakota Lannon.
Hey, hon.
After that, we have Brian Choplick.
Hey, Brian.
After that, we have Angeline Jones.
Hey, hon.
Then we have Schmelby.
Schmelby. Hey, hon. I love that name.
After that, we have Nick It the Femboy.
Nick It the Femboy?
Nick It He Femboy. Maybe it's Nikki the Femboy.
Nicky the Femboy.
It was all one word, and so
Hey,
I'm reading
hon.
it differently. So Nikki the Femboy.
Hey, hon.
After that, we have Marylander in New Mexico _ Mrs. East Coast Food _ Please send Scrapple, Boardwalk fries, and tasty cakes.
Oh, and a Maryland flag, right? Because you have to have your Maryland flag.
That's true.
Wherever you are.
You do. You desperately do. After that, we have Frey.
Hey, hon.
After that, we have listening _ at _ 1.25 speed.
Oh, let's go. Talk faster for them. Hey, hon.
After listening at 1.25 speed, we have Sarah Woods.
Hey, hon.
After that, we have Sean _ small.
Hey, hon.
After that, we have Alex's _ screaming _ is _ cathartic _ as _ fuck
Yeah.
_ right
Yeah.
_ now.
Yup. That's facts right there. Hey, hon.
After that, we have Yonder Tall Guy.
Hey, yonder tall guy.
Then we have Nick Palmer.
Hey, Nick Palmer.
What? So why'd you laugh? Just because we have all these crazy names. And
Yeah.
it's Nick Palmer.
Hey, Nick.
After that, we have R, Duchess of Bisexual.
Whoa.
Go Birds.
Go Birds.
That's all one name. I think this button's breaking now,
The
too.
air horn's button's breaking, too.
There we go. After that, we have Scotty D.
Hey, Scotty.
After that, we have Christopher H. Drain.
Hey, hon.
Hey, giving us a middle name on that one. Then we have Maz.
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 Hey, hon.
Hey, Maz. After that, we have Awati the Tall.
Hey, hon.
Then we have Sophie Thompson.
Hey, Sophie.
Then we have _ Mr. _ Peas _ Rage _ at _ the _ shitty _ state _ of _ the _ US _ Mr. P's Rage at the shitty state of the US.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
No facts. Yeah. Hey, hon.
And then finally,
Okay.
we have my _ high _ school _ financial
Yeah.
_ literacy
Yeah.
_ class _ was _ just _ a _ Dave _ Ramsey
Oh, no.
_ DVD _ set.
No.
My high school financial literacy class was just a Dave Ramsey DVD set. And oh my fucking God.
He's getting roasted on the internet right now.
He's getting ripped right now. For those of you guys who don't know, on TikTok especially, Dave Ramsey has a clip where he says that he doesn't actually own his homes.
Yeah. Well, no. Somebody wrote in and was like, "How is you owning all of this property during a housing crisis not greed as described in the Bible?"
Yeah.
And he went in this whole thing about how it's not greedy and I don't own these. It's
Yeah, he's actually my
Coping,
I'm
as they
holding
say.
it on behalf of God.
yeah. Okay. Are
I'm
you
just a
holding that
steward
money?
on behalf of God.
Sure.
Yeah, because that was what Jesus preached about.
Yeah.
Possessions.
Yeah, that's what he loved.
So with that, Mrs. P.
Yes.
I think, give me your hand.
we're holding hands.
I just want everyone to write, George Dale was a great man.
George Dale was a great man.
Put that in the comments.
I never knew who he was before this, and I'm so happy I know who he is now.
Me too. And I'm going to make sure that I get some of these hyperlinks down there. And thank you so much to Sad Beige.
Thank you, Sabage.
Sad Beige, thank you so much for your
You're
research
the
on this
best.
one. And the quick turnaround.
Yeah.
It was an incredibly quick turnaround. I think once she got into the topic, she was like, this guy
Wait,
rules.
what is this?
This guy rules. So thank you guys so much. Thank you to everybody who's a patron and a listener and a subscriber and a viewer and a watcher and all those things together here at Pearlmania500.net.
Too many frauds and too many scammers that we wish weren't real. Too many cons and too many spammers, and we're starting to feel like we've got too many tabs open. It's too many tabs. Remember to smile.